So, as I was saying, I come from that family, and where, say, my grandfather was a Sufi Muslim. I never seen him pray. You know, he was praying not the regular way that we can see Muslims going to the mosque, praying five times. He was a Sufi man. And my great-grandfather, on the other hand, was an Orthodox Muslim. My father was an Orthodox Muslim. And I was, in fact, a punch of being a Sufi and Orthodox Muslim. But we're all Sunnis.
Could you just explain what a Sufi Muslim is? Just, I mean, obviously this is going to an English audience
right,
as well as
yes.
a Muslim audience.
Sufis are considered not to be Muslims by many Orthodox Muslims, because Sufis do not pray the usual way of believing in hadiths and praying 5 times in a certain manner. They don't necessarily, not necessarily many of them would pray that way. But there are Islamic scholars who will tell you, yes, they do 5 prayers, but they have a spiritual, mystic understanding of Islam. So when you engage in dialogues with Sufis, you will usually see that they are peace-loving people. Usually they're peace-loving people, and they're not like the usual Orthodox Muslims that you will see. So my family, in fact, has a blend of all that. So we had followers who were Hindus, even still Hindus, but they still were respecting us a lot. So that qualifies me in one way, because I have accumulated knowledge and wisdom from that. I was preaching Islam and debating with non-Muslim scholars since the age of 16. So to my credit, I debated the head of Bangladesh Bible Society, Michael Chunimondol, back in 1989. I debated Christian scholars, including many Catholic leaders in Bangladesh, because that's what I was devoted to. I had Sheikh Ahmed Didat, famous Muslim scholar from South Africa, guiding us from another part of the world to prepare us.
Didat was a very prominent man.
He was a
in Dawah. He was very prominent mission, right?
Exactly. He, even Zakir Naik considers him to be his guru, but anyway, he's not the same. But I still have respect for Mr. Didat.
And were they from the Deobandi strain of Sunni Islam?
No. Dr. Ahmed Didat, Sheikh Ahmed Didat, he in fact revered a lot Abdullah Yusuf Ali, another famous Islamic scholar before his time. So Abdullah Yusuf Ali was a great Islamic scholar. So they are not particularly belonging to any particular branch of movement. He didn't belong, because Deobandi, in fact, mainly Orthodox Islamic branch. So Zakir Naik is in fact a very Orthodox Wahhabi Muslim,
right? Yeah.
But not Sheikh Ahmed Didat. No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
So that qualifies me again. Then also I preached and lectured on Islam on various platforms around the world, including the Phil in Trinity College Dublin, which is the oldest philosophical society in the world. I addressed there as well. I also lectured European Law Students Association, which is the biggest law students association in the world. And also I wrote profusely, including in the Daily Star, which is the most circulated English daily of Bangladesh. I was a regular contributor
on Islam
and other legal matters, and Sharia as well.
And of course, the law in Bangladesh will be very, very intertwined with
yes, and I have law degrees. I have law degrees. I did my master's with a special emphasis on Muslim law as well.
On Sharia.
In Sharia, yes. And I was doing my PhD, in fact, in Sharia and blasphemy law at the Trinity College, Dublin University. But on the 3rd year, I had to give it up because under the threats from Islamic State, because they and other supporters of their network and was sending me death threats.
Was this before you left Islam then?
Yes, before.
So they were sending death threats before you?
Yes, simply because I spoke out against Islamist terrorism, and the death threats started pouring in, included in many forms.
So before you left, you were still taking a stand against
yes.
Islamic terrorism.
Yes.
And was that because you didn't agree with the idea of a global caliphate, or you didn't agree with the method? What was the reason that you were standing against Islamic terrorism, or was it a moral issue?
It was moral, obviously, to begin with. It was moral, and also I was speaking out because, over the years of having a very good upbringing, where my father was a very tolerant man, and being a Muslim, he was a very tolerant man. But come to know of this now, I said my father was an apologetic Muslim preacher as well. So I was apologetic in that sense, and also being educated abroad, and also having entered into professions and working for law officers around the world also made me, show my disgust against any kind of illegality, any kind of terrorism. And I had a clear idea, understanding of international law and what terrorism meant and everything, because I have experience of working in the US, Europe, and Asia. So I have this.
So your stand against terrorism, was it coming from your Islamic upbringing, or was it coming back from the Western influence on your
Western
life?
influence.
So,
and also my father's influence.
And your father's influence.
My father and my family, in fact, they were always connected with the West.
So if you had been purely brought up on the Quran, the Hadith, the life story of Muhammad, would you have had a different opinion, do you think, to the...
100%.
Right.
100%. If you ask me, if being someone who is devoted totally into Islam and not relying on apologetic nonsense, not relying on mental gymnastics, would I be able to condemn terrorism in the way I do now? Answer is no.
And why is that? Why couldn't you condemn terrorism?
Because terrorism is coming right from Quran itself.
So the Quran is
a terrorist handbook.
A terrorist handbook.
Terrorist handbook.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so are the hadiths. And if somebody tells me there are beautiful verses in the Quran, like say, there are Muslims who say, Muslims usually say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that He is the God and merciful, and then you have a whole chapter, Surah Rahman, that Allah is merciful. I will say that's a paradox. It cannot be sustained with the verses of the Quran, because Allah is merciful only when you bow to Allah and become a slave.
So really he's only merciful to Muslims?
Yes, He's only merciful to Muslims, but in fact He's not.
Right.
But even there He's not, because when He denies your freedom, when He doesn't let you live with human dignity, then how come He's being merciful?
Yeah.
So He's not merciful now.
What was your, people talk about the red pill moment. In other words, when you decided that Islam was not for you and you left Islam. Why did that happen? How did that happen? How quick was it?
You see, if there are Muslims out there who are obviously watching this video, they can't deny that I had hundreds and thousands of followers worldwide. Wherever I was going, say from South Korea to Vancouver, wherever in the world, I was being greeted, with immense respect. I remember the time.
And that's changed now, has it?
Well, but the same people, when I spoke out against Islam, the very people who were into learning Islam from me, putting me on a pedestal, they started throwing abuses at me, throwing hate messages at me.
So these are terrorists, are they? These are terrorists?
No, Muslims. They were the very Muslim who probably had a dinner with me even a week ago.
So these are not terrorist-connected Muslims?
No. They were just throwing me abuses, all kinds of insults. They were making videos and baseless accusations and trying to destroy my credibility simply because I spoke out against Islamic terrorism. Not only against Islam, against Islamic terrorism. And they said, you should keep our problem in our own house. Why did you have to bring it out to the public? So that made me think again, what the hell, why are they saying these things? And I tried to defend my position, my right to speak out against terrorism openly on the basis of Islam. But in fact, I found out that I didn't have much argument to sustain my position. Then I thought that, why am I failing in defending Islam against, this terrorism? Why am I failing? If I can just simply wash my hands saying that Islam condemns terrorism, Islam condemns IS. But when you are confronted with the idea that, why do you say that? Because Muhammad himself, in his last words when he was on deathbed, he said that if he lives, he will banish all non-Muslims from Arabian Peninsula. So why do you hate? Why do you think IS is doing something wrong? Then I don't have much to say. So that made me rethink my position, all my years of learning, and then I had to say that I'm being a hypocrite. Just get out of it.
And once you'd done that, what was the cost of that to you personally? Once you'd come to the position where you said, okay, this obviously cannot be reconciled with peaceful coexistence and this idea of a religion of peace. What did that cost you taking that stand? Or what is it costing you?
Well, first of all, the very first thing happened that my wife left me. That's the very first thing. Then I thought, like, why? Why my wife doesn't want to see my face? Just simply because I left Islam? Why wouldn't she give me the attention? Even the chance to have a discussion. Then I went back in my understanding of Islam. Then I remembered that Muhammad even did not allow his own daughter to touch her husband until he converted to Islam. You know, one of his daughters. So that proves that point. Also, there are Quranic verses in Surah Nisa, Surah number 4, that, you know, you should not sit in a place where your scripture is being ridiculed. But what is the definition of ridiculing? If I say something about Muhammad, say, this proves that Muhammad raped Safiya. He had sex with a 9-year-old, when, even if she was menstruating, but that doesn't mean that the girl was old enough to consent. Even if it was that time, he cannot be an example for all times. And then Surah 23, verse 21, and all this came into me, that, and also Surah 21, verse 23, and all this was piling up in my head, and I could see that, well, she's doing it on the basis of Quran, then, and Hadith, and also then I went on to see that I cannot see my own son. I'm being ostracized by my community, and they're engaging lies, deceptions. Knowingly, they're telling lies. You know, they were making women wear the niqab and still tell nonsense about me. Then I remembered the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad of Islam, that jihad is deception. You know, you can engage deception. So it is okay.
And when you talk about engaging deception, from a point of view, if we're engaging with Muslims as Westerners who don't have a knowledge, I mean, we're not Islamic scholars like yourself. We don't have knowledge of Islam. So when we're engaging with Muslims who are telling us things like, well, this is a wrong interpretation. You've got it all wrong. This is not what it really means. Can we believe them when they say that?
Well, first of all, there can be. First of all, that person really doesn't know the geopolitics of Islam. You know, I give the credit to him. He probably knowingly misleading you, unknowingly. He knows probably he can be a scholar. He can be having all the degrees of the universities, from Islamic universities, but he doesn't know the geopolitics behind it. Because what I did, I not only read Islamic scholarism, but I also read the geopolitics, history, geography of other religions and geopolitics surrounding the area. You know, I also read, say, Imrul Qais, the poetry of Arabian poetry, just before the time of Muhammad. How beautiful they were. What was the politics around that region? So they probably didn't read that. So they don't know what they're saying. Or they can be using taqiyya, they're knowingly misleading you. Or either they're lying knowingly.
And because of this idea that jihad is deception, that's okay.
Yes, because
according to Islamic law, you can do that without.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you can lie even. It's part of the jihad.
One of the things I'd heard about taqiyya, that it was more a Shia thing than a Sunni thing. Is that false?
Well, many of the Muslim scholars, Sunni scholars, would say yes, it is that is. But when you say that is, then that Sunni scholar the most will say that only when it comes to saving your family, life, you can use that. But still, taqiyya is there. The understanding is, did Muhammad use taqiyya? that's the understanding. That's the question that you need to ask, and I would say yes, he did.
So obviously, if Muhammad did it, then really it's a model then for every Muslim.
Of course.
Because obviously he's the perfect man.
Yes, he knowingly misled, gave the Jewish and the Christian community of Medina a wrong idea about his intention. You see, when Muhammad was there, soon after coming from Mecca to Medina, the very first surah that was revealed was Surah Baqarah, and that Surah Baqarah, Surah 2. That surah, in fact, gives you an idea that even if you are a Christian or a Jew, as long as you believe in God, you'll go to heaven. But in fact, believing in Muhammad was not part of the equation then. But later on, he made believing in Muhammad to be part of the salvation, So
believing what Muhammad said then, but they believe in... Yeah,
yes, Muhammad has to believe Atiullah, Ati Rasul. So you have to believe Allah and you have to follow the Prophet.
Follow the Prophet.
So that was not the issue, in fact, at the beginning. So he was using taqiyya just to get his footing there.
Yeah. From the point of view, again, getting back to you personally, are you in danger as a result of your leaving Islam?
Well, you see,
and what is the reason for that? What's the scriptural mandate for the danger that you're in? Why would somebody want to harm you? Because if you left Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism, apart from in very extreme cases, you wouldn't be in physical danger. So what's the difference there between...
Well, first of all, if you remember, I just said that jihad, when a Muslim is in jihad, he doesn't have to be only in arms, it has to be in mouth as well. So there are Quranic verses where it says that they want to extinguish the light of Allah, but Allah will perfect it. Doesn't matter even if the kuffar or the non-believers don't like it. That makes you instantly understand that Islam is taking your word to be a method of attacking Islam. So you have to retaliate. How do you retaliate? You retaliate with word. You retaliate. So jihad of word is already there. And so harassment comes in there under that category, that anything you talk about Islam, open your mouth if you don't accept Islamic one-sided argument, like Surah Baina, Surah 98, then in fact you don't know what evidence means, you don't know what logic means, because you have been brainwashed with lies, all your life, you end up loving the lie, Yeah. So it's there. And also the danger comes because Allah in Quran says, if you have to read Surah 3 verse 56, you have to read Surah 8 verse 55, you have to read Surah 9 verse 14. You have to correlate to all these verses. And you can only do that by understanding not only chronological order of the surahs by Makkah Surah, Medinan Surah, you will be lost, because even Medinan Surah includes some of the Meccan verses. Yeah. So if you say, what is the last surah? You will not understand. If you say, that surah is the last surah. In fact, Surah 5 contains the last verse of the Quran in Revelation timeline, but it is not considered to be the last revealed surah. You see the problem? So it says that you will not get peace. The kuffars will not get peace until you surrender. And also, it says that when if you read Surah 5, verse 30 to 32, you will see that when the revelation has come, and if you still do not, bow to it, and if you keep on preaching, going by other laws, you are spreading corruption in lands. So if you spread corruption, your punishment is by death. So you are somebody whose swords will be taken up. But some Muslims will say that Islam says, Allah says not to cross your limit. But what is the limit? The limit is you surrender. Or you pay tax, because you have to read then Surah 9, verse 28, verse 29, 9 and 14.
That's the jizya that the unbeliever pays.
Yes. So you have to understand all that. So if you don't understand that, and terrorists, or Islamists, or fundamentalists understand this very well. So what they do, they, kind of instigate other Muslims, even normal Muslims, so-called Islamic Muslims, to go against you. For example, I will say vast majority of Muslims are lovely people, but they may be ritualistic, they may be appearing to be religious, but they don't know their Islam. They are ritualistic. But being ritual and really not knowing, and probably they have memorized the Quran, not understanding, they are in fact advertising a cult. And there's a possibility that children will end up like that. But what that has done, when you see death threats against me, with, say, videos which are Facebook pages dedicated against me, to kill me, hate me, Facebook hasn't got those videos down. It is still, sorry. So those videos are still there with 500,000 hits, 47,000 likes, 37,000 comments, So those videos have enormous number of comments, vast majority of them, overwhelming majority of them saying, kill Mufassir. And if this apologetic or a nice Muslim man is saying, no, don't kill Mufassir, let him talk. Then what is he going to say? Okay, why don't you ask an alim and a sheikh? He'll go to the sheikh and say, sheikh, Mufassir is saying all that. Should we really be harassing him? Should we really be killing him? What does Islam say? He will say, Prophet said, if somebody leaves Islam, kill him. And not only some apologists will say, if you leave Islam, don't talk. And if you talk, there is no excuse.
So the text of the Quran, the Hadith, the life of Muhammad, that would call for your death.
Of course, 100%.
Okay. And what about the various legal opinions of Sharia experts? Were they do this exactly the same? They were saying,
well, all you need to do is go into the Muslim nations, and I can give you a legal lecture on that. But Richard, all you need to do is go to any of the Muslim countries in any of the cities and criticize Muhammad and come back alive. That's all you need to prove it to me. So Mufasil, you know what? I'm live, Facebook, anywhere.
You can't even do it in Paris and stay alive.
Even in England nowadays, it's very difficult.
So death for the apostate is commanded by Islam.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
That hasn't been rescinded. That is still in place.
If somebody's telling you otherwise, he's lying.
Okay.
Absolutely lying.
So from the point of view of an ex-Muslim, you're an ex-Muslim living in the UK. How much danger are you in as an ex-Muslim right now in the UK? Is life dangerous for, I'm not talking about for you in person, because obviously we know that your maybe is an exceptional case, but the average Muslim that says, well look, I don't believe this, I don't want to follow this anymore, how much danger is that person in if they openly come out in Bradford or Birmingham or Tower Hamlets and say, I no longer believe in the Quran, the Hadith and Muhammad, I'm an ex-Muslim? What position are they in?
Danger. Serious danger, because you see, not only words, your action may be branded as an act of hypocrisy. It's called a munafiq. The head of the Ansars,
What's the Ansars?
Ansar are the people who in fact welcomed Muhammad to Medina. They're called Ansars, the helpers, the Ansars. Abdullah bin Ubay, he was the head of the Ansars. But he was a tolerant man. He would have been the king of Medina if Muhammad was not there. So he was sometimes disagreeing with Muhammad for his atrocious actions against the Jews. He didn't hold on to Muhammad's armor one day and say, stop it, in the battlefield, because Muhammad was on a killing frenzy. So he's still considered by many Muslim scholars as a munafiq.
Can I just come back? Muhammad, I just want to repeat that. Muhammad was on a killing frenzy.
Yes.
So this is the man that Muslims are commanded to emulate and copy.
Yes.
And Muhammad was on a killing frenzy.
Yes.
What does that say about the problems that we've got in the world with radical Islam?
When my Muslim friends, I hate the disease. I don't hate the person. I love Muslims. I don't love Islam. I don't like any religion. You know my position. But the thing is, Islam commands a unique position because it's a cult. I'm not ready to just in any way accept it to be a religion. It's a cult, although they claim to be a Muslim, a religion, it's not. So Muhammad commands the same command a leader of a cult would do. So when the leader of the cult is such a barbaric man, a rapist, mass murderer, child molester, and no Muslim scholar out there, it's an open challenge, can come to a debate and prove me otherwise. I'm ready to defend my position.
It's in the text, right?
It's in the text. I will go by the most authentic sources.
It's in the Sirah, it's in the
Hadith. 100%. I will not even quote from non-Muslim scholars. I will go by the most authentic scholars and I will debate any Muslim scholar out there, and just he has to prove me I'm wrong, and I will surrender. I will say, I know I got it wrong. So let the public decide. He's a barbarian, he was a mass murderer, he was an anti-Semite, and he killed. And he was the most intolerant man probably in human history. So ordinary Muslims need to wake up to this fact, and otherwise we are in serious danger.
How many ex-Muslims do you believe there are in the UK?
Well, I'll tell you this. From some of the most reliable sources, 22% of Saudis are atheists.
Wow.
Does that shock you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yes.
So just explain what that means.
That means they can't speak out.
But what are Saudis? Just explain.
Saudis, that Saudi Arabia.
Oh, sorry, Saudis. Sorry,
Yeah.
Saudis. Okay,
Saudi
sorry.
Arabia,
Yeah.
The natives
So
of
22% Saudis.
22% of the Saudis
in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia are ex-Muslims.
I'll have to change the card.
That's okay. That's okay. That's probably a good point to break. I wanted to ask a bit more about the ex-Muslims.
Okay, we're going live.
Oh, we're live. That's okay. So going on about the ex-Muslims. So 22% in Saudi are ex-Muslims. Obviously, we've a serious situation in the UK with fundamentalist Islam, what I call Islamic supremacism. That strain that takes everything literally, that wants to follow Muhammad's example, and is looking to impose the caliphate on the UK. What role can ex-Muslims play in mitigating what those guys are doing? What can ex-Muslims do to help basically diffuse that very dangerous situation? I mean, we've got MI5 telling us there's at least 23,000 jihadists,
or
jihadist sympathisers, possibly up to 100,000 sympathisers and supporters, maybe more. So how can the ex-Muslims help? Because obviously they're in a dangerous position. We've got to think about their safety. How can they help? What can they do? If there's any ex-Muslims watching this, what would you suggest that they start doing?
You see, many of the ex-Muslims have an upbringing in Asian countries or African countries, in Muslim countries. And you see, when I was growing up as a Muslim kid, I was growing up in an apologetic environment, not only family, because back in days, we had a form of synchronized Islam in Bangladesh. You know, that's why we were relatively peaceful. We didn't have this kind of fanaticism. But when the Saudi money started coming in, and petrodollar come flooding in, and then we started going more deeper into Orthodox Islam, and Orthodox Islam is the real Islam.
So I want to pick up on that point, because one of the things that a lot of liberals and apologists for Islam would say, well, listen, this Saudi version of Islam, this Wahhabism, this Salafism from the Qataris and so on and so forth, this is not the true Islam. They're telling us that this is a perversion of this lovely religion that's very peaceful. What's your answer to that when they say this is the true Islam?
The straight answer is this: the Quran itself claims that it is a self-sufficient book. It doesn't need any other hadiths. You know, it is self-sufficient. The Quran itself says.
That's right.
And Muhammad himself, there's a Bukhari hadith, authentic hadith, you can find it from yourself, that he said, don't write down anything from me, unless it's Quran. Don't write. You know, there was a small example where he said, write it down, because the listener, he was telling the listener, go and pass the message to him. If he said, my memory is weak, said, okay, write it down if you just in case. He uses that to write the hadiths. And Muhammad's closest allies, closest friends, companions didn't allow writing of hadiths. You know, like the caliphs, the Caliph al-Rashidin, the first few caliphs, they didn't allow hadiths to be written down. So Salafis or the Wahhabis, what do you want to call them, they rely on the original text, original instruction, which is rely on the Quran.
The Quran.
So if a Muslim scholar tells you, what does the Quran say? So what does the hadith say? You know, at the most you go for hadiths. So even hadiths are, you know, as I said, it's questionable. So Quran, if you just rely on Quran, and I will tell them that, okay, if you want to rely on Quran, is it Quran sufficient to make someone a terrorist? If you just rely on the Quran, if you know the meanings of it, right? Then if you just read the Quran from timeline order, and just spend some time to understand the Quranic verses, you know, you will end up being a terrorist. So that is the real Islam. So if you say the Wahhabi Islam or the Salafi Islam is not the real Islam, you don't know.
Right. And the Hadith, obviously you can only really, am I right in saying that you can only really interpret the Quran in the light of the Hadith and the life of Muhammad, is that correct?
Yes, you have to read the Seerah,
yeah,
or the biography, the most authentic biographies of Muhammad, and also you have to read the Hadith. Without Hadith and Seerah, how can you understand Muhammad?
So the Seerah would be the information that has
biography.
And this would be about Muhammad killing the Jews.
You can find that. You can find it from Hadith as well.
The Hadith and the Surah.
Yes, of course, you can have it from Hadith. But yes, biography gives you more understanding about the persona of Muhammad, because the Hadiths, the Seerah will give you more idea of the persona. But the Hadiths are more like dealing with rituals and all that, because of obvious reasons, because otherwise you will find out who Muhammad really was. So Muslims will always say, you know what, Seerah, give it less priority. But if you have to ask, which is older, Seerah or the...
So getting back to the ex-Muslims, I mean, obviously, because I think this is a really key thing. And not just ex-Muslims, I mean, I was speaking to someone who you probably, I'll not give away too much information, but you probably call a cultural Muslim. This was a lady somewhere in England, and we were just having a dialogue on Facebook, and she said, look, I agree with everything that you're trying to achieve in encouraging ex-Muslims and trying to protect ex-Muslims, but I'm really scared of the extremists. How can you help the cultural Muslims? In other words, people that don't really believe it, they're kind of just like people that could call themselves Jewish atheists or Christian atheists or whatever. They're just culturally Muslim, and they don't like what these guys are doing either. How can we encourage them and empower them? Because they don't seem to have much of a voice, from what I can gather.
Richard, when I...
Or is that a wrong term, cultural Muslim?
No, yeah, well, there are cultural Muslims. There are cultural atheists who are Muslims by name. But you see, if you need encouragement, the question is this: look at me. When I left Islam, I had many things to lose. Thousands of people, respecting me. Overnight, I will wake up and say, "Sorry, my friends, I was wrong." Shock itself, a trigger of shock, just unbearable probably for many, because many started crying. I lost everything, Richard. I even cannot go back to my profession even, So I cannot go back to the country I was born in, and all that. Being British citizen, I have to look over my shoulder being in England sometimes. So still, I'm happy. I cannot say I'm sad. I'm not. I'm not sad. If somebody says that leaving Islam will make me, oh my God, I've lost to lose. But look at me. I'm happy.
What's at stake? What's at stake for the UK if you don't take your stand and I don't take my stand? What's at stake?
You don't love your children then. I did it because I can't even see my child. But I would say I'm happy because I have life examined. I have examined my life.
But what's actually at stake for the UK if we don't...
Security. My children, your children, your grandchildren will not have the slight of freedom that we have still.
What will the future be for the UK if we don't
They will knock on your door. They'll knock on your door one day and tell you, get down on your knees and say Muslims are the best, and you either pay tax or you are kicked out. Surah 98 verse 6 and 7. You have to read that we are Islam Muslim. Quran says that you are the best, and the non-Muslims are the worst creatures on the face of the earth. They will burn in hell for eternity. So they will come and knock your door and say.
So this is what I call Islamic supremacism. So Orthodox Islam teaches that we are, what was that you said?
That means that, if you read Surah Bayina, Surah 98, you will see that it is saying clearly that non-Muslims are the worst of creatures.
The worst of creatures. So everybody else apart from Muslims is the worst of creatures.
You see, you have to read Surah Fatiha, the first surah in a compilation order, not revelation order, compilation order, which is uttered by every Muslim 5 times a day. It is Surah Fatiha. Surah Fatiha is the opening. The meaning of Fatiha is opening, the first surah of the Quran. If you read it, reflect through it, the last verses will say, don't let me lead into the way where they are cursed or the derailed. Allah, praying to Allah, don't lead me to the way, lead me to the one you are blessed. That's in Arabic. It means that don't lead me to the path. Lead me to the path of the best, or the blessed ones, not to the ones with cursed and who are derailed. Who are the cursed? Who are the derailed? Those from the Hadith are the Christians and the Jews. So most of the Muslims don't know that in every verse they're in fact cursing, they're degrading Christians and Jews. But in fact, most of it.
When we see this great ecumenical movement and we see faith leaders trying to bring everybody together because they claim we all worship the same God, obviously people are laughing behind their back, saying you don't know that we're cursing you and we want you under our boot.
Yes, absolute lie. Yeah. Because you see, the God of Islam is Allah. Yes, the name Allah was used even by Christians in history, but for God. But the Quranic Allah is different from the Allah of Abrahamic religions, because where it comes to Jesus as God, Father in heaven, the idea is totally different from the Muslims will tell you that, oh, we love Jesus, we respect Jesus because you have to believe in Jesus. We have the same mission. That's what the problem is. They did not have the same mission. Because Jesus said, when love thy enemy, pray for those who persecute you, And what if you have gained the world and lost everything, You lost your soul, but you gained the world. What's the mission? Whereas Jesus also said, one who lives by the sword will die by the sword, So even if not being a Christian myself, I believe in these beautiful things, and then whereas I criticize Christianity. You know this, Richard. But on the other hand, I can't be a hypocrite. And when Muhammad said, he dreamt of Allah's dominance from east to west, and heaven is under the sword. It's going totally opposite of Jesus is saying. And he said, this kingdom is not mine. So whereas Muhammad always wanted the land grabbing, banishing people. So how can you say they worship the same God? Absolutely a total lie. That you've been deceived by Islamic scholarism over centuries.
Either they've been deceived or they're deceiving people deliberately themselves. But either way, it's not true. That, it's a position that we've all probably come to at some stage or another. Can we stop there, Clifford, just for that bit? We'll go on to...
We're still live.
We're still live. We'll take a little break and we'll go on to... I want to ask some questions now, obviously, for the live feed.
10 minutes a card.
Oh, have you? Right.
Huge,
okay.
I didn't think of it.
You can pick it up later on from my live feed, probably.
But we'll get the 10 minutes and ask the question, but only because that's...
Gotcha. Because we've
64 gig.
Crumbs. Right. Okay. Well, look, we'll carry on. It's good, isn't it? He's doing. I mean, you don't. There's nothing needs to come. I mean, Mufassal just is. It's amazing. And I'm trying to keep my mouth shut as much as possible and let this man. He's the expert.
Do you need a top for that? Do you need a top? I have a thing. I'll send it down to you. You can keep. And it connects to that for your phone.
Very good. Thank you very much.
What we'll do then? So we've only got 10 minutes.
You're not related to Cliff Richard, are you? You want his money, right?
So I've got. I wonder, could we pick up this? Could you do this another time, Cliff?
Yeah.
Because I want to do women in Islam. I want to do freedom of speech. I want to do violence in the name of Islam, which we've really kind of covered, I suppose, haven't we?
Yes,
so
I think violence.
Well,
I can go on. We can go on 3 days now. So
yeah. Well,
women in Islam.
Okay.
Please.
Should we do women in Islam? Okay. Let's
women in Islam. Goodness.
Yeah. Let's do women in Islam. Okay. Women in Islam. Obviously, it's a huge subject. Women's rights is very important in Western civilization. It's something that's been hard fought for, and women have equal rights unless you're an absolute. Well, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, right.
But women have rights in Western civilization. I think most rational people would admit that men and women have equal rights. Okay. What rights do UK Muslim women have in a conservative Muslim community or in an Orthodox Muslim community? So what rights do UK Muslim women have in an Orthodox Muslim community?
Right. What rights should... Let's make it more flexible. What rights Muslim women have in a Muslim society?
Okay.
I mean, even if you don't take Orthodox, it's a Muslim society.
In the UK?
In the UK.
Yeah, we're talking about the UK specifically.
In the UK. Well, you see, Quran has a chapter called Surah Nisa. Nisa means women. It has a chapter. They will say, oh, a whole chapter named...
About women?
Yeah, it's women. But the thing is, do Muslim women know Islam? I haven't come across a single Muslim woman in my 35 years of preaching who really know Islam and ready to defend their position being Muslim and women and having equal and dignity. Impossible. There's not a single Muslim woman who can come to debate with me and say Islam gives prestige to them. No, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, are they not counted as equal? I mean, if we go to Christianity, men and women are equal in terms of in the eyes of God. Is that not the same in Islam?
Equality is a dream in Islam for women, but there's no right. The women don't have any respect when it comes to their soul. You have a soul. There's no respect, no recognition, because where should I start? Should I start with Muhammad's own upbringing, or should I start about Muhammad's own wives? If you want to say that, we ask Muslim women, how, if he is a character to be emulated, if he's someone that you take your husband, do you want Muhammad to be? Is your husband to be like Muhammad? Muhammad, had sex with a girl who was 9 years old when he was 53. Some say 54, and imagine what the girl had to go through. And he's not only that, he's an example for all times. That's why Muslims of India, Muslims of Bangladesh, especially Muslims of India nowadays, they were against child marriage restraint act, saying that no, increase, do not decrease the child age anymore. You see, Bangladesh is amongst the worst cases of child marriage in the world.
And what ages are we talking here?
15, 14, 12, 13. And then they don't give a damn about child marriage restraint act. The law is there. They don't give a damn. They will always manipulate with age. Oh, no, she looked 15. You know what can I do? And then secondly, Muhammad divorced his wife simply because there were symptoms of leprosy on the wedding night. Oh, leprosy, imagine if Jesus was there, somebody was there, somebody...
Jesus would have healed it.
Or at least if you saw your wife having, a serious disease, what did you do? You pray. Or you go to doctor.
Yeah.
But Muhammad did, he just divorced her.
Yeah.
Then Muhammad divorced his wife just simply peeking through the window. One of the wives, he just divorced.
So when a Muslim woman is divorced in the UK, what position does that leave her in?
Yes, so Muslim women are taught always that men are the ones who will be earning money. So being treated like queen. My husband is the one to ask for money, but husband will be going through hell, not earning enough money. But she'll be, the husband will be, in trouble as well. She won't be ready to work, and she will not want to work. And vast majority of Muslim women in the UK are not working because they don't find any reason to work. They will be giving, many of them will be saying that I have children one after another, because giving children is...
What about polygamy? Obviously, polygamy seems to be mandated in Islam. What about polygamy in the UK? What do you know about that in the UK?
Well, many of the husbands, they usually end up marrying again.
In the UK?
In the UK. And many of them, go bankrupt here, but into millionaire back home. I have many examples where, I know examples of where someone married an Irish woman, and he ended up marrying another one back in Bangladesh. Now the husband is saying that business in your name, I'm bankrupt here, although I have multi-million property back home, so business bank will be coming and holding after you. So you start getting ready to have your other sister here, otherwise be ready to go bankrupt with all the children.
The other thing, obviously we hear a lot about domestic violence. Is domestic violence a problem in Islam, and if so, why?
Well, you can beat your wife in Islam. Don't give me the nonsense that somebody will say, you have to beat your wife symbolically. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
So that's mandated.
If you, I made a video, and I think if your viewers can see that, where the beating was almost the verses, the Arabic verses were used and all that, that can go into the verses of going to the war and beating. So that's beating is not like light beating, that's lie. And again, there are examples where somebody, a woman came to Muhammad's wife, Aisha, with serious black and blue, being beaten her by her husband. And Aisha said, I'm shocked. How can someone beat his wife like that? Muhammad didn't call that man and punish him. So why did you beat your wife? And even Maulana Maududi, famous Islamic scholar, respected by Jamaat Islami.
He was Indian or Pakistani?
Indian-born, Pakistani, later on migrated.
Yeah.
But this man, Jamaat Islami, is hugely respected by Islamic Forum of Europe members, who control 400 mosques in Europe. In England.
Islamic Forum of Europe, just explain a bit about that actually.
Islamic Forum of Europe, doesn't matter if there is an officer or a worker or activist of Islamic Forum, you listen to this video, they can't lie. The Islamic Forum of Europe has nothing to do with Jamaat Islami and Maududi doctrine. And Islamic Forum of Europe and Jamaat Islami and Maududi philosophy, Maududi wrote in his book that if there is a problem between husband and wife, it shouldn't be taken to the court. You see, there are Sharia courts here who are dealing with these things.
Yeah.
So this situation is very
So obviously, the last thing I want to talk about is a very contentious issue, and it's about the rape of white and other Asian children, really, by Muslim men in the UK. Obviously, we've heard about the so-called grooming gangs. They're basically rape gangs, and the statistics would lead us to believe that 90% of rape gangs are Muslim, when only 5% of the population is Muslim. So obviously there's a problem there. Why is that happening? Is it cultural? Is it scriptural? Is it a bit of both? What's going on? What's going wrong there that's happening?
Majid Nawaz, if you listen to this video, it's not only cultural, it is from Islam. Yes, it is from Islam. Because, you see, the word rape That's a challenge. Does not exist in Quran. I have the Quran right now here. If anybody can show me, the word rape does not exist in Quran, begin with. Why? Because according to Surah 24, verse 23, Surah 4, verse 24, I can go on. You know, and Surah Anfal, Surah 8, which means war booties. You know, women are war booties. And you can rape, adultery and rape are not the same. You all know that. So adultery punishment is there because obviously my wife, my thing, my slave is my slave. So you cannot have, you know. So that's the reason adultery is punishment, but rape is not. Because if you make rape a punishment, then you cannot go to war and rape women. You cannot stay a slave. And secondly, Muhammad himself, you know, I would say raped Aisha, a girl. So Muslims, apologists, or even Muslims will somehow in their brain will make it acceptable. So, end of the day, girls of 7, 9, whatever, they will be somehow be taken as, there can be men who can look at this girl and have sexual desires. Because in fact, they are deep down in their history of Islamic history, they have Muhammad as an example, that he had ended up somehow having sex. But what, if somebody has that kind of lust, you punish him. Don't victimize the child. But what they're doing, they're making the child wear burqa, making the child wear hijab. So you are giving him, you know what? I know you will have this lust. I'm covering her.
So could we say that because of the attitude that Muhammad had towards women, and because of the verses that we talked about earlier, where basically anybody who is not a Muslim is what was it you said, worthless or
yes, worst creatures.
Worst creatures. So because of those two things, a female who is not a Muslim is...
Mass gang rape, mass child rape is rampant in the Muslim world. They name it child marriage. They name it marriage. They're not marriage, teacher. These are child grooming and sexual exploitation and child rape. What we know as a statutory rape in the Western world. Okay. That's what it is. It is rampant. It's not Pakistani thing. Sure. It's not a cultural thing. It comes from Islam. It's okay to have sex and marry children.
Okay. We're going to stop there for that bit. How much have we got left, Clifford, on your machine?
About 10. So
10 minutes, yeah. Okay. Let's, because I want to get onto some. There's so much to cover. Have we?
I'll turn the quality image down.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be fantastic quality. It's just because what I want to do is get these split down into sort of 5-minute segments, so we can just put sort of punchy 5-minute pieces out for the English the English market. Yes, let's go on to free speech. Okay, we want to talk about free speech. Obviously, free speech is one of the fundamentals of Western civilization. We need to be able to talk about these things without being intimidated or bullied. What's the punishment for an unbeliever now who insults Muhammad?
Well, to know that, all you need to do is check into Muhammad's Dead Poet Society.
Dead Poet Society. I like that.
Muhammad, in fact, killed, at least to my memory, about 25 poets, which included a little girl who used to sing against Muhammad. And Muhammad ordered killing a handful of people after coming and conquering Mecca. He ended up conquering Mecca without much bloodshed because Mecca surrendered to Abu Sufyan. Otherwise, you would have massacred it. That credit goes to Abu Sufyan, not to Muhammad. So after coming that, he ordered the killing of the two girls. One ended up getting pardoned, the other one was killed. There were many poets who were killed during Muhammad's lifetime, so freedom of speech are not allowed. People who were...
So when those gunmen charged into the Charlie Hebdo offices and machine gun...
they're considered enemies of Islam.
They were enemies of Islam.
If anybody makes a caricature of Muhammad, even insults him, he is considered a murtad.
So they were basically, they weren't psychopathic terrorists. They were carrying out
Muhammad's orders.
Okay.
Yes.
Which have never been rescinded.
But mind it, some Muslim apologists will say it needs to be sanctioned by a caliph or it needs to be sanctioned by the state, which is wrong.
What do you think about the way? Let's say the liberal left, or as Majid, you quoted Majid Nawaz calls it the regressive left, protect.
He doesn't know Islam.
No, we're not.
Or he knowing the deceiving.
We're not talking about Majid here.
I will talk.
But I know we'll leave Majid out of this because we haven't got enough
time. Come to debate, Majid. Come to debate.
But
right.
I like Majid. But anyway,
you do?
I like him. But we're not talking about it.
Right.
But anyway, okay. what I want to get at is the idea of the left defending Islam, as if when we're making these videos, when we're talking about Islam, I mean, you know, I'm in contact with a lot of Muslim ex-Muslims. It's not a racial issue, but the left try to make this that we're being racist in some way when we're talking about Islam and critiquing Islam, and it's almost like it's not just fundamentalist Muslims that are stopping us talking about Islam. The media's stopping us, the government's stopping us. They're trying to pass hate speech laws all the time. The left are going after people who are taking a stand against Islamization. What do you think about that as an ex-Muslim who loves the freedoms that we have in this country? Are you afraid that we're going to lose our freedoms because of these people? I'm not talking about Muslims now. I'm talking about the left and people in government who want to silence.
How do you fight evil if you don't call it evil? How do you fight hate if you don't call it hate? How do you find fight?
Well, we're the haters, you see. We're according to the left, we're the ones that are
Islam
inspiring
is not a race.
hate. Yeah.
Islam is not a race. Muhammad himself was not tan like me. He was much fairer than me. That's what the implications, vibes that I get from hadiths. So Muhammad himself was not a dark man. He was a white man. So most of the Muslims that we see in the UK, probably in Europe, are tan like me or darker. But that's not the case, because there are Muslims in, say, Northern Africa who are much fairer than I am. There are Muslims in, say, in Bosnia who are white. There are Muslims, even in Irish Muslims, who are white. So it's not a racist thing. It's not a racial thing. It's nothing to do with race. It is to do with an ideology, an evil ideology.
And how do you feel about the people that say that we're being racist when we're having these conversations? What does that make you?
Liars.
Yeah.
They're liars. They don't know law. Or they're being ignorant. I should tell them that go and have an understanding what racial hatred means, and then come back to us and tell us.
Because from what I can gather, Mufasa, what you're doing, you're critiquing the religion, you're critiquing the texts, but at the same time you're loving the people because they're your people.
Of course. My mother is a Muslim.
Yeah, exactly, and you want to see them set free.
Of course.
Because Islam seems like the biggest prison camp on the planet.
You have no freedom even on beer. You have no freedom on how to brush your teeth. You have no freedom how to sleep. You have no freedom how to eat, what to eat. You don't have any freedom which book to read. So there are Facebook people, users are Muslims, devout Muslims, who don't think showing face on Facebook is Islamic.
Just on the point of view of freedom, what are the intentions of mainstream Orthodox Islam leaders in the UK for the UK? In other words, what's the aim of Tablighi Jamaat, Jamaat al-Islami, Muslim Brotherhood particularly? What is the aim of these organisations?
I'll give you.
What was your aim before the light came on and you?
I used to think that if Islam, the whole world becomes Muslims, it will be a peaceful world. Because
so in your heart, I mean, you were wanting that because you thought it would be for the betterment of the world.
Yes,
you sincerely believed that there would be peace.
Yeah, sincerely believed.
And
I sincerely believe, but that was obviously not true. I was not right. But coming back to the question of what is the ultimate purpose, I told you from the beginning, the Islamic Forum of Europe controls 400 mosques. I mean, when I say that includes Muslim Council of Britain. Yeah. Muslim Council of Britain, Islamic Forum of Europe. Hardly there is any difference.
And the Islamic Forum is what? And what would be? I mean, because obviously we use these terms like Islamist or Islamic supremacist. But you would
Orthodox
Muslim,
yes,
which
including Muslim Council of Britain.
Yeah,
they're Orthodox Muslims.
So what's their aim? What do they want?
Well, they have connections with Saudi Arabia. No question. They cannot fool me. And Saudi Arabia, I will say, they have the highest King Faisal Award. There's the highest rank of award. They began the award by giving the very first award to the founder of Jamaat Islami, who inspired Baghdadi of Islamic State. The very first prize went to Maulana Maududi. And
this is the Indian Pakistani man.
Yes. And they have wings, even in where we are sitting.
And he inspired Baghdadi.
Yes.
Right.
Because Baghdadi, you have only one video of Baghdadi, we call it Mimbar, from the mosque, he's delivering his speech. And he, in fact, had verbatim quoted from Maududi's book. And you see, in the acceptance speech of that award, by Maududi, who was in hospital in America. He sent the letter to his relative, and who read out the letter. The letter, in fact, was calling for caliphate ultimately.
A global caliphate.
Yes.
So the aim. So let me get this. So let me get this right. The aim of mainstream Orthodox Islam
is caliphate.
Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Council of Britain, Muslim Association of Britain. All these groups, their aim is a caliphate in the UK.
100%. If they don't say it, they are lying. They cannot sustain.
Was that your aim
when
you were?
No, I was not. You can say why Mufassir?
Yeah.
Because as I said, I used to somehow find an apologetic understanding of not believing in this. But now I come to think of it, I can tell you I was a hypocrite.
Okay.
I was a hypocrite deep down. I didn't realize it, but I was a hypocrite. But now, only a couple of years ago, Zaki Naik received the same King Faisal Award from Britain's one of the greatest allies, Saudi Arabia, King Faisal Award.
Can we just go to Zaki? Zaki Naik is on the run.
On the run.
Terrorist offences.
Exactly. He's in fact
he got an award from Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Right.
They want him. The Indian government are saying we want you for money scams and all that, but the ultimate purpose is to try him to see whether he's in fact inciting hate, because the terrorist attackers in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, I think last year was it, and then there, in fact, one of the terrorists that survived, he said his idol was Zaki Naik.
And these were the guys that went into a restaurant and basically chopped people up with machetes and chopped Westerners up.
Yes. And Jamaat Islami and their pages, Facebook pages, were in fact all threatening me as an atheist and as an apostate, and they're threatening me still now. You have them threatening me from Florida. You have evidence of that. They're threatening me from Portugal, because Portugal is already a terrorist hub in Lisbon. They're threatening me from South Korea. They're threatening me from Saudi Arabia. So they have this network, and
so I can't even go to the Algarve anymore.
Huh?
I can't even go to the Algarve anymore.
There you go.
Obviously, I mean, I think one of the things that people find so difficult to get to understand is just how deep this goes in Islam, and how big the threat is, and I think we just don't comprehend that a religion can have that much intent for destruction and mayhem. I mean, we should just look around the world and we see it, but we live in a fairly peaceful country, and we don't see our Muslim neighbours attacking us every day. And like you said earlier, the vast majority of Muslims, that's not their intent. But there seems to be something there that is in the text that is inspiring this. And you say the ultimate aim of Orthodox Islam is a global caliphate where everybody's controlled by this book, by the life of Muhammad. And that's the ultimate aim, isn't it?
You see, apologetic Muslims always say, like with a caveat, like what's his name? The Oxford University professor, Tariq Ramadan.
Yeah.
Tariq Ramadan will always condemn terrorism with a caveat, the foreign policy, the caveat. And Islamists are saying deep down, how many more do we have to kill?
Just explain who Tariq Ramadan is. And what his family connection is.
Tariq Ramadan is the grandson of Hassan al-Banna. Hassan al-Banna is in fact I would say the father of Ikhwan Muslimin, Muslim Brotherhood and all. So he is the father. He's the grandchild.
He was the Egyptian.
Yes.
He was the Egyptian.
But Tariq Ramadan is a respectable man. He's respected by scholars around the world, and I would not say he's a terrorist or terrorist, but the thing is, I was surprised when Tariq Ramadan in fact tried to defend Matiur Rahman Nizami. Matiur Rahman Nizami was hanged some time ago in Bangladesh in charges of genocide during 1971 Liberation War, because he's the Islamic leader who in fact founded one of the terrorist wings in Bangladesh during 1971 Liberation War in the name of Islam, So he was defending him. I was surprised, a Muslim scholar who claims himself to be peace-loving, he's defending that kind of man. Anyway, Professor Tariq Ramadan, I have reserved respect for this man, but at the same time, Muslims will ultimately, the main purpose is to dominate the world. And if somebody says the main purpose is not to have Quran established, he's lying.
On that sort of note, we talk about Majid Nawaz earlier, and obviously there's a few not a lot, not enough, but there's some Muslims talking about reform of Islam.
You would like to hear that, don't you?
Yeah, is
You
Islam,
would like to see Islam reformed.
is
Yeah?
Islam reformable?
Well, you said you like Majid Nawaz. You see, you know why? Because you would love to hear.
I don't like him. I like Majid Nawaz as a person. I don't necessarily agree with what he says. I think he's a nice guy. Okay?
Richard, I would love to hear. You know what? I'll tell you what. All the people in the world love to hear. Islam can be reformed. It is a cultural thing. Muhammad was a peace loving man. They got it wrong. It's a matter of interpretation. And you know what? He was a tolerant man. He believed in all the ummah includes this and this. Or there's no compulsion in Islam. Those kind of Quranic verses.
Yeah.
But we would love to hear that. But if you really, really know Islam, you'll say, sorry, my friends, these are all lies. So I will not going to make you happy with lies. Maybe there's apologetics, they want to make you happy with lies, and we are all falling for it. But that's not true. So Majid Nawaz cannot convince what he's saying with debates with real Islamic scholars. He can't do it. He can't even prove it to me.
Yeah. So if Islam is irreformable,
It's not reformable.
it's not reformable. So
No.
Islam's not reformable. So that leaves us in a bit of a
It's in ICU.
problematic situation.
Islam is in ICU.
It's an
Intensive care unit.
Why? You think it's going to collapse?
Oh yes, it's collapsing from within. Why? Because from the outside it's very strong. You know, you see it's expanding, but inside it's dying. They're not telling you how many is leaving the religion, and there are vast numbers of educated Muslims who cannot say, you know, things like, "Oh, I live it." You know why? Because they know they will be killed.
Yeah, and they're vested interest. They want to just live a quiet and peaceful and happy life. And who can blame them? I mean, you can understand.
But I can blame them.
I know you can. You've done it. You know. I mean, obviously, a lot of people that are taking these stands, not just Muslims, but non-Muslims. When we take a stand to defend Western civilization and culture, we're all putting ourselves in all sorts of danger.
Yes.
You know, family danger.
Yes.
Danger from, you know, the state, from
Yes.
the media. There's
Yes.
a lot of people don't like what we're doing.
Yes.
So that obviously puts people off. What can you say to encourage people to take the stand that you're taking, that I'm taking, where we're saying, like our great Prime Minister said, enough is enough. I mean, enough really is enough. So what can you say to encourage people, you know, people that are going to be watching this?
Where's the people in Britain?
I'm talking about people in Britain. Yeah, people in Britain, to take a stand against the Islamization.
Make Britain great again.
Yeah.
by allowing British people to talk, by demanding their right back. We lost it a lot.
Yeah.
We lost it a lot. There are politicians who are liars, and they don't care much for us. There are politicians who will just be happy with being their leaders and getting some salary at the end of the month. But think about the future. If you love your children, wake up. And if a Muslim comes to you and say, you know what, I'm a Muslim, and only thing you need to say, ask him, really? And then you say, really? You're someone who, you know, being a friend, even best. And I said it to some of the very few friends that I have who are still apologetic Muslims. Say, Mufassir, assalamu alaikum. I said, really? Because you want peace on me. That goes against your Quran. Then you say, I said, Surah 3, verse 56, Surah 8, verse 855, read it. Then I will say, Mufassir, you know what? I love my wife. I said, really? You love your wife? How?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, we talked a bit about it earlier, but ex-Muslims, obviously there's a vast number of ex-Muslims. This is something that really, I think, is a really help the ex-Muslims.
You do.
And I want to speak specifically to the church, especially in Northern Ireland. We're taking risks, taking a stand against this ideology, and we need the church to step up and start helping these ex-Muslims. We need to find houses for them.
Yeah.
We need to find safety for them. We need to find protection for them. We need to lobby government to protect them more. And the church has a role to play in this. And I've been reaching out to people in the church, and it's like banging my head off a brick wall.
And also, if I can, sorry, interrupt you.
So please, church, step up to the plate and start helping. If you're watching this on the live feed, or if you're going to watch this on YouTube later, step up to the plate, church in Northern Ireland, and start helping ex-Muslims now, because this is a very small window we've got. If we don't do this now, we're going to miss a great opportunity. Sorry, my father, that's my rant over.
Sorry, and also I will say that ex-Muslims, don't be afraid that Richard is not trying to convert you or something.
No.
This is humanity. It's humanity that he's talking about.
Yeah.
If his God, if his God inspires him to love us, of course, why not?
Yeah.
I will shake your hands for that.
Yeah.
But again, we have an organization. I have formed an organization called BOBA.
Yeah.
So we have a website. Please do check. It's still we are working on the website. It's not complete yet. It's bobaofficial.com. www.boba.official.com. Please visit the website and do help ex-Muslims, and you can be of any religion or no religion. We need help. Many of the ex-Muslims are suffering from tremendous atrocities, even in UK. Even in UK, they're being abused sexually. They're being abused in the mosques, right by many imams. And I have witnessed for that. And you saw that I uploaded the video. Here, British kid who has lost his brain now because of his PTSD, So we need to help these ex-Muslims because they can work. They are afraid. They don't have home. They lost family. They lost relatives. They're in fear. If you don't come up, if you love your Jesus, why don't you come up in the name of Jesus and love them? Help them, So we need help, we appreciate help, and of course I'm calling upon ex-Muslims that you are not alone. Don't be afraid to leave. You have a bigger community.
And again, we're going to try and help. We're very small in number. A lot of people don't get this, they don't understand what we're doing. They're left scratching their head saying, why are you getting involved in this? But I think this is the biggest struggle that the United Kingdom has been involved in since the Second World War. I really believe that. We are not, and we've got to keep reiterating this, we're not against Muslim people, we're not against individual Muslims. That is not what this is about at all. What we're about is exposing a cultic ideology that has the potential to completely destroy Western civilization, and that's not been dramatic, that is a fact. If you start digging in and doing the research, the roots are going very, very deep in the UK in all sorts of areas, in government, in media. There's a real threat here, and we need to oppose this peacefully and with logic and with love and with grace if we're Christians, and we need to do something about it. We need to do it quick. So join us in this struggle, whether you're an ex-Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whether you're an atheist, whatever background.
Even if you're a multimillionaire.
We want, if you're a multimillionaire, come and give them a fast loads of money so we can build lots of houses in Northern Ireland for ex-Muslims, because we want ex-Muslim refugees from England to come to Northern Ireland and settle here.
100%.
That's what we want.
You'll be welcome.
They're welcome. They're welcome, and they'll be looked after. And Northern Ireland is still a fairly safe place in terms of Islamic terrorism, and we've got to keep it that way. And one of the best ways to do that is let's get all the ex-Muslims who are living in a terrible situation across here to safety and to peace. And I think the ex-Muslims are the key to this struggle.
We know it best.
They're the key.
We know it best. We know it so good that we left it.
And almost, okay, we can't talk about ex-Muslims evangelizing Muslims, but what we do want to talk about, I've got to take Ms. Fassel very, very slowly here, because he's just come out of one religion. He's not going to dive straight into another, but you
can try.
I will be trying.
You can try.
You'll get to, as you get to know me, I'll try.
I'll try to get you out of religion as well.
No. Listen, I've been around that. But I came from atheism to Christianity, but that's not the story. So look. No. What we want to do, even the ex-Muslims, encourage the ex-Muslims to talk and set up groups. So ex-Muslims, if you're watching this in the UK, set up groups, talk to your friends, don't be afraid, because you'll probably find a lot of your friends are going through the same sort of things. They're looking at what's happening in the world and going, there's something wrong here and we need help. So set up support groups, just speak out. The UK still will offer you some form of protection for now, but there's going to be a time when that door closes. So we'd appeal to ex-Muslims as well to get bold and get out there and stand up and be counted as well. Would you agree with that, Mufasa?
100%.
This man's lost everything. Any of us could lose everything for taking this stand. We've made that calculation before we go on camera. but it's worth it. It's worth taking a stand. I'm taking a stand because I love Mufassal. I genuinely mean that. I've got to know this man.
I love you too, man.
And he's you know, he's not a Christian brother, but he's a brother, right?
Oh yes,
you know,
brother in humanity.
Yeah, brother in
100%.
humanity, and we're all sons and daughters of Adam. So we have that common humanity, and that's what this is about. And I want to say to ex-Muslims, we love you and we want to help you. We don't have resources, we don't have money, but we've got this live feed that we can keep telling you and encouraging you to come out and be strong and bold. You won't be alone, and with God's help and God's grace, you will prevail. Mufassal, what practical steps can we actually do now to help people?
Well, I know ex-Muslims who are homeless.
Yeah.
I know ex-Muslims who are suffering from serious psychological problems because of years of mental harassment, persecution. Even I have someone who came
So
here.
if people in Northern Ireland wanted to help you, who can they get in touch with? Can they get in touch with you through Facebook?
You can get in touch with me to the official Boba website. They can even send an email to me to Islam, ISLAM, mother at tcd.tango.charlie.delta.ie, or send me a text +4475 435 76591, or they can even get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And we have friends, who are working together. We are meeting every Friday. So that we can think about how to take this forward, and we'll keep on doing that. If you want to join our struggle, please come and attend our meetings.
And the other thing I was going to ask him, politically, do you think there's a need for political reform? Obviously, I'm not talking about in Islam now. In the UK, our politicians seem so weak on this. The media seems so weak. It's almost like we're wading through treacle to try and get this message out. Do you think there's a need of political reform as well as helping ex-Muslims and that sort of thing? Would you agree with that?
Politicians should understand that British people are not so naive that they will not understand that even if we have to take some sort of blowing, of our on our economy for not having Saudi Arabia to dictate us about our mosques, we're ready for it.
Yeah.
And we will understand that they will have to lose their probably some salary, but still we want leaders.
Yeah.
Not only like we want politicians who are greedy for power, but politicians who really want to help us.
And on that note, how obviously if we stop the Saudi influence and we basically clamp down heavily on the extreme
Saudi, Qatari,
the Saudi, Qatari,
Kuwaiti,
Deobandi, all that sort of extreme, that extreme, that extremism, that extreme form of Islam. If we clamp down on that, can we reverse the situation? You think, and we can?
Well, at least they should understand that their ways will not pay. And we are well informed. And I have started taking classes, online classes, and if you are well equipped, and I think that someone up there who is thinking of converting to Islam, please, first of all, please keep yourself informed about Muhammad and his life, and talk to me if you can before converting. Now, give me a chance. Give me a chance. Give Richard a chance. Know about Islam before you decide to convert. You should always think of the other side. Other side of argument. Then think about it. But we need to inform our people more so that it doesn't work.
So how long have we got? How long have we got before this gets to the point of no return where we can't say
Armageddon?
But before we get to the stage of Armageddon, I mean, how long have we got before the UK is?
It's already very late. It's already very late.
How close
if not
are we
too
to
late,
midnight?
it's already very late. It's already very late. And you see, why am I talking to him from hiding? Why am I not being able to say the same conversation in England, in London? Impossible. If they know that I'm having this discussion in Bethnal Green, at a certain place, you will be attacked. I can guarantee. It's already too late, but I think if we wake up now, we still have a chance. Wake up now.
It needs drastic political action.
We need drastic political action. We need some laws to protect people like me, ex-Muslims.
Another thing, obviously, there's a lot of street protest movements happening. That raises awareness of what's going on. Would you encourage people from all backgrounds, ex-Muslims, people of all races, to get involved in those street
Well,
movements?
first of all, I think you and I are on the same boat. We do not believe in harassing people.
No.
We don't believe in going unruly.
No.
We don't believe in attacking
Must be
people.
peaceful. Must
Rather
be
than any Muslim is attacked, I'll be the first one. You'll be the second
Likewise,
one, or the first one, and the second
absolutely.
one to
We've
defend
said
it.
that all the time in our
100%. If
organisation,
anybody
we've said
throws
that.
in verbal
Yeah.
abuses to
Yeah.
Muslims, I'll
Yeah.
be the first one to
Yeah.
stop it. But regardless of that, yes, street demonstrations obviously
Yeah.
is helpful. If we believe in right to freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom
Yeah.
of opinion, we believe in all that. So yes, of course, I think peaceful demonstrations should be encouraged, and we should all go and participate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we had 1 million people on the street, maybe the government would start listening and paying attention.
Yes. So if we get more people together, yes, there's something they should listen to, and I think we should also think about getting a petition, online petition, for Parliament to take about issues that we want to talk about. We should be putting a pressure intellectually.
Yeah.
And also we should put a pressure through media. We should ask the media to start telling the truth. We should also put a pressure on changing the laws so that ex-Muslims can be protected.
Yeah.
We should need more laws so that to speak out against religions should be considered. We should take out measures that Islam should be declassified from religion, so it doesn't get the protection of religion. It should be considered a cult, and if not, and I think many of my friends are trying as well to prove that it's not a religion, it's a cult. And we should also make Muslim leaders obliged to come to debates, because they always use apologetic arguments and nonsense and excuses not to come to debate. If they're not coming to debate, they have something to hide.
Yeah.
If they don't have something to hide, and if the religion is true, they should come and debate with us.
And I just want to add something to the debate. Is that? Do I have to close it?
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it's something that we talked about, but we can't stress enough. Attacks on Muslims, verbally abusing Muslims, any sort of abuse, insult,
personal insult,
personal insults, throwing bacon about, stupidity like that is counterproductive.
Yes.
It undermines the cause.
Absolutely.
It gives the government opportunity to pass legislation against freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Absolutely, we are civilized people.
So anybody who's attacking Muslims in any way, shape or form is betraying the cause of the counter-Islamization cause.
Yes.
You're totally doing the opposite of what you think you're doing. You're achieving nothing. You're selling your own people out, or the people that you think you're fighting for. So we are a peaceful movement. We will never, ever allow violence to be done in our name. It is completely not what we're about. We want to see people set free. We want to see the United Kingdom set free. And we want to see it done peacefully and politically. And that's hugely important. I mean, I'm sitting in a part of the world that's suffered greatly because of inter-religious, well, not even inter-religious, because of communal violence and terrorism. And if it started in England and it got out of control, it would make what happened in Northern Ireland look like a tea party. It's as simple as that. It would be so widespread, it would be impossible for the security service and the police and the army to deal with. It would wreck our country. So if there's any idiots out there that are thinking about taking the law into their own hands because they don't like Muslims or whatever, just do not do it. And I can't reiterate that strongly enough. I'll say that time and time again. We've said it on our material, on our website. It is vitally important that violence does not take place. And I'd say to any jihadi there that's thinking about doing anything crazy, you're not going to get 72 virgins.
Definitely not. And if you go 72 nagging virgins,
according to Mufassal, you're going to get just darkness forever.
Exactly.
And according to what I believe, you're going to damn yourself to hell forever by carrying out that attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so if you're a religious man,
absolutely,
if you're a jihadi and you're a religious man and you're watching this,
absolutely,
if you go and murder someone in the name of God, you will go to hell.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Absolutely.
So, we can't say it any clearer than that. But yeah, we do not want to see any violence from any side in this. We want to do this peacefully, and I believe there's a very narrow window to do this peacefully, and that's why I've been involved in this movement, and I'm going to stay involved in this movement until we either succeed or I get put into a wooden box and put into the ground. That's the way it is. We're nailing our colours to the mast. We're ready to die for this. We don't want to, but we're ready to. But we are absolutely committed to a peaceful movement and to peacefully and politically achieving what we want to achieve. You'd agree with that, Mufasa?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For
Thank
taking
you
the
very
time,
much.
Mufasa.
Thank
That
you
was
very much
fantastic.
for
Thank you.
having me on. Thank you. Take care.
I take it we ran out of space. Didn't we? That's a shame. That's a shame.